Well, the plot thickens over allegations of murder for hire linked to India.
Linking the Indian government to an assassination plot in the U.S.
That a government official directed a plot to kill a Sikh activist on American soil.
The United States has charged an Indian national in connection to a stunning murder for hire plot.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another obscure Asian story. In the shadowy world of international espionage and intrigue, a chilling plot was hatched, one that would have sent shockwaves around the globe had it not been for the vigilant efforts of law enforcement. This is the story of a murder-for-hire scheme orchestrated by an Indian government employee that was foiled on U.S. soil. The audacious plan targeted a U.S.-based leader of a Sikh separatist movement, a man who had made a name for himself as a vocal critic of the Indian government. The mastermind behind this nefarious plot was a former member of India's Central Reserve Police Force. Known only as CC1 in court documents, this individual recruited Nikhil Gupta, an Indian national, to carry out the assassination. Gupta was tasked with the grim responsibility of ending the life of a U.S. citizen, a man who had dedicated his life to advocating for the secession of Punjab, a state in northern India with a large Sikh population. This man, a vocal critic of the Indian government, was seen as a thorn in the side of those who wished to quash any talk of secession. But as the saying goes, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. The story began on a calm Sunday evening in Surrey, near Vancouver. On June 18, 2023, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was ambushed and killed. It was Father's Day, and after spending the day at his Sikh temple, he was ready to head home. Earlier, he already told friends that he suspected that he was being followed. That day, while heading out of the parking lot in his truck, two masked gunmen attacked him. This tragic incident set off a chain reaction that had global implications. U.S. federal agents were soon racing against time to unravel an international assassination plot they believed was orchestrated by someone within the Indian government. The stakes were high, as the next target was on U.S. soil. The key evidence was actually provided by the Drug Enforcement Administration by Nikhil Gupta. Unbeknownst to him, he has actually been working for the DEA. Mr. Gupta stepped into a web of intrigue when he was trying to enlist the help of a criminal associate to hire a hitman, but was in fact speaking to a confidential source working with U.S. law enforcement. Little did he know, this man was an informant for the DEA, initially involved in a separate Colombian drug trafficking case. Mr. Gupta's request took the investigation down a new path. The plot thickened when it was revealed that Mr. Gupta had been drawn into the scheme weeks earlier by an Indian government official. This official, whose identity remains undisclosed in the indictment, held a government position related to intelligence and security management and had tasked Mr. Gupta with arranging an assassination in New York. The suspected target of the assassination plot was Gurpatwant Singh Pannoon, a strong advocate for a Sikh independence movement. Like Mr. Nijjar, Pannoon was campaigning for a separate state for his religious group, a conflict deeply rooted in history. It remains unclear whether the official involved in the case was acting independently or with the support from others in India's government. To secure Mr. Gupta's assistance, the Indian official promised to resolve a pending criminal case against him in India, although the specifics of the charges were not disclosed. In a matter of weeks, the official appeared to fulfill this promise, assuring Mr. Gupta that his case had been handled and he would no longer be troubled. The official even proposed introducing Mr. Gupta to a deputy police commissioner in India. With his case dismissed in India, Mr. Gupta proceeded with the plan according to prosecutors. When the DEA discovered Mr. Gupta's search for an assassin, they hatched a clever plan. An agent would go undercover, posing as a hitman. The DEA informant introduced Mr. Gupta to his hitman, and they agreed on a murder price of $100,000. This set the stage for an intricate sting operation. The undercover agent, a stack of cash, and a team of investigators who could access private texts between Indian nationals and India all played their part in this high-stakes game of deception. Mr. Pannoon, a lawyer for Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the murder victim in Canada, found himself in the crosshairs of a deeply plot. Both men were known critics of India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. In the ensuing weeks, Nikhil Gupta, the man tasked with the assassination, relayed critical information from an Indian government official to the supposed hitman. This included Pannoon's New York address and details about his daily routine. Gupta even suggested that the hitman could lure Pannoon by posing as someone seeking legal advice. As the plot thickened, the hitman, who was actually a DEA informant, asked Gupta about the payment, requesting an advance. Initially, the Indian official told Gupta that an upfront fee was impossible and that the full $100,000 would be transferred 24 hours after the job was done. However, the official eventually gave in, providing the name of an associate who would help arrange the funds. On June 9, the hitman met with one of Gupta's associates, who arrived with $15,000 in cash. The associate handed over a large stack of $100 bills. But there was a major condition from the Indian official. The assassination could not take place during high-level visits between US and Indian officials in late June, coinciding with President Biden's state visit with Prime Minister Modi. Given Panun's public profile, Gupta was concerned about potential protests and geopolitical fallout if Panun was killed in the US during Modi's visit. In mid-June, Gupta mentioned to the DEA informant that there was also a big target in Canada. It's unclear whether US officials warned their Canadian counterparts, but 6 days later, on June 18th, Nijjar was murdered outside his temple. In the aftermath of Mr. Nijjar's murder, a video of his lifeless body was sent to Mr. Gupta by an Indian official. Mr. Gupta confirmed that Mr. Nijjar was the Canadian target he had previously mentioned. Despite expressing a desire to personally carry out such actions, Mr. Gupta was advised to stay low. However, caution was abandoned around Mr. Modi's visit. A news article about Mr. Panun was sent to Mr. Gupta, marking him as a next priority. Mr. Gupta relayed this urgency to his associate, stating there was no need to wait to eliminate Mr. Panun, who was one of many targets. As the pressure escalated, Mr. Gupta grew increasingly anxious, demanding regular updates from his New York associates. He stated they had 4 tasks to complete before June 29th, including 3 targets in Canada. If Mr. Panun was found in a group, the directive was to put everyone down. The net began to close around Gupta. Unbeknownst to him, every move he made, every contact he reached out to, was being monitored by the DEA. His plans, once shrouded in secrecy, were laid bare for the authorities to see. In late June, an Indian official informed Mr. Gupta that their target, Mr. Panun, was not at home. This information came from an anonymous boss. When Mr. Panun was finally home on June 29, Mr. Gupta instructed the supposed hitman to proceed with the plan. However, there was no hitman to begin with, and the plot that Mr. Gupta had been orchestrating for over a month came to a halt. The following day, under unclear circumstances, Mr. Gupta left India for the Czech Republic. On June 30, 2023, the hammer came down. Gupta was arrested and detained by Czech authorities. The U.S. Department of Justice swiftly released an indictment detailing the charges against Gupta. The plot had been foiled, the would-be assassin was in custody, and a life had been saved. In response to the incident, the Indian government expressed concern and stated that such a crime would be contrary to government policy. The spokesperson for India's Ministry of External Affairs described the case as a matter of concern and said the accusations that had been made by the Department of Justice were contrary to government policy. The Indian government has pledged to investigate all the relevant aspects of the matter. The Nijjar case has sparked international intrigue and strained relations between Canada and India. The murder has raised concerns about international sovereignty and potential impacts on trade and investment. Accusations of a biased investigation into Nijjar's murder by Canada have been made by the Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Verma. In response to the diplomatic chaos, India's External Affairs Minister summoned the Canadian envoy, leading to the expulsion of a senior Canadian diplomat from India. This was followed by Canada's decision to expel Pawan Kumar Rai, the Ottawa Station Chief of India's External Intelligence Agency, amid allegations of India's involvement in the assassination of a Khalistani activist. India escalated the situation by demanding Canada reduce its diplomatic presence in India by more than 2/3. The historical importance of this incident cannot be overstated. It underscores the lengths to which conflicts can escalate, even reaching across international borders. It also highlights the importance of international cooperation in law enforcement and the relentless pursuit of justice. This incident is not an isolated one. There have been similar incidents in the past. For instance, 2 months before this incident, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau suggested that Indian agents were behind an assassination on Canadian soil. Despite Trudeau's failure to provide solid evidence and the lukewarm response from his Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance allies, New Delhi has firmly dismissed the accusations. However, not everyone is convinced by India's denials. It suggested that, like all major nations, India might resort to assassination to prevent larger-scale issues, reflecting its emerging power and independent national interest. Sometimes, even the government might not be aware of the actions of its intelligence agencies. In the end, the story of the foiled Indian murder-for-hire plot on U.S. soil is one of intrigue and suspense, of plans made and plans thwarted. It's a story that underscores the ever-present need for vigilance in the world where threats can come from unexpected quarters and where the line between friend and foe can sometimes blur. But most of all, it's a story of how the tireless efforts of law enforcement agencies can ensure that justice is served and lives are saved. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time and thanks for watching!